What is up, metal and heavy music fans? It is time for Trench Talk, and I am your host, FlightOfIcarus from MetalTrenches.com. As always, you can listen to this podcast on iTunes, CastBox, Spotify, YouTube, and BitChute, but also, regardless of where you subscribe from, also subscribe to the YouTube channel because there is plenty of other content, videos, tier lists, album reviews, album roundups, you name it, we've got it on that channel. So check that out. And today I'm really excited because we've got an interview with Andreas from the deathcore band out of Denmark, Cabal, talking about their new album, Drag Me Down. I've been a huge fan of these guys since The Mark of Rot came out in 2018, or I should just say Mark of Rot. But yeah, let's get into the interview and you can hear what he had to say.
Hey everyone, my name is Andreas and I'm the vocalist of Cabal from Copenhagen, Denmark.
Excellent. And I was super into your 2018 album, Mark of Rot. Like, that thing came out and just destroyed me. And I was curious, like, just kicking things off, going into Drag Me Down, was there any sort of change in terms of how you were approaching the album?
I think we've been writing in the way that we always have been. We have like one of our guitarists, Chris, is a full-time producer. So he's like the main songwriter. He'll always like come out with songs, record them in the studio, and send them to us, and we all pitch in and work on them together. So we like just kept on doing that, like always. But this time around, we wanted to make an album that was a bit more of a lively listener experience. So like we wanted to have like more variation in the songs. I think there's like the change in approach that was kind of like made consciously for this one.
Yeah, I definitely hear that too, because Mark of Rot, it's like more just like a sledgehammer to the face constantly, whereas this one has like some kind of sort of singing, some more dynamics to it, a little bit more textured. It's interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad you picked up on that.
Yeah. Was there a particular like inspiration going into this one?
Not like one thing. I think we wanted to add more of the stuff that we're inspired by into the songs. Like if you take like the fifth song, Sjælebånd, it's super inspired by sludge and black metal and all that kind of stuff, and like it shows it in a bit more of an obvious way than like those inspirations have come out on like the previous stuff.
And I'm glad to hear you say the name of that song, because I had no idea how to pronounce it until just now.
Yeah, it's also we had this weird thing called an A. In Denmark, I think we have like 3 more letters in our alphabet than you guys, because I don't know why, it was special for some reason.
Yeah,
and that's like one of the ones we used, so nobody knows what it is.
Well,
it's like why we kind of joke, because it's kind of funny doing that.
Yeah. Well, it brings up another point that I've been interested in lately too, is that like that region is so known for like, that's kind of like the black metal territory. Like that's where black metal comes from. And I've been noticing like over the past couple years, there's just been this explosion of like metallic hardcore and deathcore bands just all coming out of kind of just everything around Scandinavia. And what's the scene like out there right now?
It's kind of really, really like varies if you're like in Sweden or Norway or Denmark or Finland. I feel like the scene in Denmark was kind of weak for some years. Like more commercial metal was like doing really well. We had like a fucking Volbeat, and like that kind of stuff. And there's like this like traditional death metal does pretty well in Denmark, but like newer stuff, like the kind of stuff that we like that you will lump us in with, like the core kind of bands, traditionally didn't really do very well in Denmark, but that kind of like seems to be changing, seems to actually be opening up, and like we've been somehow accepted into like the more traditional metal environment as well.
Yeah.
So it's going in the right direction. I feel like the Danish scene is like finally awoken and like started like noticing all the other kind of like newer stuff that's coming around.
Yeah, and I'm super stoked about it because honestly, I was really sort of bored to death with a lot of like what was happening with deathcore in the US. And it's just everything that seems to come from Over the Ocean is just much heavier, darker, more aggressive, more of that kind of black metal atmosphere tied into it. And I just want more people to know about Cabal in particular, because it's just so raunchy.
Appreciate that a lot, man. But yeah, I kind of agree with that. We also like when the Last Humanity's Last Breath album was just what you just described. It's just like it's heavy and it's like it's blackened and it's just like totally like bone crushing in a way you usually don't hear like next level heavy.
Yeah, and I just have so many thoughts about, like, you know, I'm a fan of Whitechapel and Suicide Silence and kind of those sort of, bands that helped bring this genre to attention. But I just can't get behind, not to start beef, but I can't get behind, like, their newer stuff. Like, it just feels, it just doesn't have that same, like, their old stuff I would listen to, and I still listen to it now, and it just, like, gets me so hyped and gets me all amped up, and I just want to break shit, whereas I listen to the new stuff and I'm just sort of like whereas I listen to kind of younger bands, newer bands that are coming to the fray, like yourselves and Shadow of Intent, and like a lot of other bands that are just crushing it. And I
don't know, it's like I actually really liked the latest Whitechapel album.
I know a lot of people did. Like, you're not alone in that.
I like that rock songs they did, and like that stuff. It was like I felt they nailed it. It's like, to me, kind of like it makes. I think it's also because they've made so many like straight up deathcore albums now. They want to try out something new.
Yeah, and I respect that too.
Yeah, it's also like from a musician standpoint, it's also like I kind of like see why you want to like go away from like your original sound, because like making 10 of the same album must be fucking like depressing. I don't know, like some people might like it. I wouldn't like to do that myself.
I don't know if you've ever seen that there's this classic interview with Jim Carrey from like way back in the day, and he's talking about Napalm Death.
Oh
yeah, and he makes this comment about like, is this guy gonna get like older one day and just be like, I want to settle down and do some duets, like yeah, that'll be interesting. Some bands go that way, but not others.
I don't think we'll go that far though.
Yeah. Well, I hope not.
Look, I can tell you now, we're gonna like keep trying out new stuff, and you might like someday hear something in the Cabal track that you didn't expect at all. But I don't think we'll ever go like full on duet. I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, never say never these days.
No.
Well, what about lyrically? Like, what makes it into the songs, and what drives that aspect of the records?
I have this like weird writing process where I'll constantly be on my phone on the like Notepad app, or like I'll just like write down sentences that I think of during the day, and then at some point it'll be like I'll go through all of my like scrambled notes and like pick out stuff that kind of like fits together, and like maybe I'll have like a verse and a chorus for a song from that, and I'll like write it out from that, and then I'll just like write a lot of stuff. And when Chris sends me a song, I'll be like, okay, this gives me this vibe, and I've actually made a song text that kind of like feels like it fit that vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's usually how like that works.
Is there like a specific type of content that rolls out into that? Like, is it about daily life stuff? Is it about, what inspires it?
It's mostly when I'm feeling like shit. Like it's super, it's heavy music, so it needs to deal with heavy subjects, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It'd be weird if I like wrote a song about, I don't know, like partying and having like a great time with your buddies while being like crushing breakdowns and just like this eerie sense going like,
yeah.
It's mostly like, for this record is like Drag Me Down is like the title, and the title track is like about kind of like coming to terms with like doing this musician life, like, and like accepting being broke and like sacrificing a lot of other shit to like doing this, like kind of accepting some sort of misery into your life to be able to do the thing, like kind of like finding the thing you love and letting it destroy you.
Yeah, that seems especially appropriate right now too. And I feel bad for all the bands right now that like have just dropped albums and now everyone's grounded. Like you can't do anything. So what's that like?
it's weird. It's like we had a lot of cool stuff coming up, like this spring, a lot of stuff we were like really excited about. We have like a kick-ass release party planned for next week, and none of that stuff is happening now. It's just like, oh, all right, then I'll just sit in my room for a month.
Are there any talks about doing kind of I don't know if you saw the stream that Code Orange did,
Yeah, it's,
doing some like Twitch stuff or things like that?
we've been talking about maybe doing some Q&A or something like that, and like interacting with the fans, talking about the new album at some point. We're definitely gonna do something at some point, and like just to engage with people now that we can't do it in like in real life.
Yeah. Well, going back to what you were saying earlier too about, writing about misery and stuff. The joke right now is kind of like, dude, I can't wait until next year when all these like sick records come out because all these musicians are stuck at home and miserable. And so
Yeah,
all this new music's probably going to be inspired by that. So maybe
obviously, I
that's
think
the silver lining.
yeah, comes some good like content out of it, mate. Hopefully.
Well, and also on the flip side, it sounds like you all just had your first US tour not
Yeah, we
too
did.
long ago. So tell me about that.
It was really, really great. It was like this crazy adventure, just like checking up with the guys in an RV for a month and like driving all across America, like and just like playing really, really good shows with some really good bands. We were out with Ingested and Visual Disgorge and The Last 10 Seconds of Life, and they were like great bands and awesome dudes. So we just like hung out with them and partied with them for a month. Like,
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
good
while.
times. Was there
But
like a favorite
it's,
place that you went?
I think like show wise, I think like the best show we had was Denver. It was like sold out show, something like Roxy Theater, I think it was called. And it was
Denver's
like,
got a great scene.
yeah, this kind of like took me aback because like I didn't really know anything about Denver. I had no idea what like to expect. I was just like wild fights broke out and like people went crazy. It was just like so much energy.
Yeah, uh, there's a lot of intense stuff coming out of Denver and just generally in Colorado. I mean, if you're familiar with like Primitive Man and
Oh yeah,
all
yeah.
the stuff that Ethan McCarthy does, like he's that's his territory basically. So
Actually, it's fucking heavy.
yeah. And I hear he's kind of behind the scenes helping to like organize a lot of shows and things like that too. So he's
Right?
sort of like everybody's uncle or whatever, getting things
That's
moving.
we need more people like him, like doing that shit.
Yeah, yeah, and I keep hearing really positive things. It does help when you've sort of got a point person that helps orient that stuff. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. What about other funny stories from the road or notable things that happen?
It's kind of sad, but like it resulted in a like kind of funny story. Like we got like charged, but like not charged, like almost attacked by this crazy crackhead prostitute on like a parking lot
Oh
in,
no.
uh, in Southern California. She's just like appeared out of the bushes and like, do you guys have any cigarettes? And like, no. All right, do you guys want to fuck us up real quick for some money? Like,
Oh my
uh,
god.
no. And just like looked like a mess. She had fucking boils in her face. It's actually really sad. It's like we ended up like sprinting away from her, and we like ran into the bus and like closed the door, and she was like flashing us from the outside, like
Oh my
screaming,
gosh.
"I can be hot, though. I can be hot." And like,
Oh
no.
no. Yeah, man, the whole West Coast, that's what it is right now. I'm in Portland, so I see a lot of that too. Like we've got a huge like homelessness and meth problem that is just completely out of control.
It's actually fucking terrible. Like it was kind of like that situation was just like kind of funny, but in reality, it's like fucking depressing. Like that
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
is that like fucking desperate to get like the next fix,
Yeah.
to, like doing this shit and like
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
huge bummer, but it definitely inspires a lot of music too.
yeah, that's music.
Yeah. What else, like other notable things that happened on the road or other bands that you played with that you were particularly impressed by?
We played like with Ingested and Visual Disgorge and Last 10 Seconds of Life. Those guys were all like they're all like bands who tour a lot, which is like this was our like first tour like lasting a month. Usually we've only been out for like 14 days. So it's like it was they were like veterans compared to us, which was like it's just like super inspiring and seeing like how they did everything, like fucking getting shit done on time with a 10-minute changeover and all that shit. we're like not really used to.
Yeah.
And they're just like killer. You can really tell that all of those bands, like, they play a shit ton of shows every year. Like, that's what they fucking do, and like that really comes out, and it's super inspiring to be around.
Yeah. Yeah, you
And
got
it's
it.
just like,
Necessary skills if you want to survive around here. Were there any like local openers that stood out?
I'm really fucking bad at names. There's this one band. I think we played with them in not Chicago, Detroit. What the fuck was their name? It's like not, to be honest, like, it's not the best music I've ever heard. But those guys, they were like fucking 16 or 17 years old, and like compared to that, like, they're just like light years like ahead of where I was at that age. So I was like just impressed by like fucking their age, and like being able to be at the stage they were at was like, holy shit. They're like, those guys are gonna like keep going that pace and like keep holding on. They'll be like amazing in 5 years. They'll be like stars.
That's the stuff that really excites me, and kind of the focus of sort of my site and the videos and everything is just finding these sort of obscure underground acts. And when I find like these really young people too, like I've come across bands where the people are like 16, 17, and they're already like putting out an album on Bandcamp, like that, because that's how it is now. Like that's all you need. If you got the right equipment and you've got the talent and you know how to market yourself on social media and put things up on Bandcamp, then like you're good to go. And I've found a couple really cool bands that way.
They were called Come Forth. I hear my roommate Christian, who was like playing the guitar, and say, "Yeah, they were fucking awesome." From the other room.
Off the top of your head, though, in terms of just other bands maybe you've been listening to or you've come across, are there any other like bands you would like to shout out that you feel like deserve more attention?
Yeah, there's like some really really good friends of ours called Lifesick. It's kind of like if you imagine like Slayer with better production, playing like beat down hardcore, but still with Slayer riffs, and it's actually like their guitarist, one of their main songwriters, is the guy who made out the video for Tongues. If you saw that. And then there's like actually our guitarist Christian. He has another band called Run Away, which is also really good. They just dropped another song today. So like a fairly new project. It's also like more in like the vein of hardcore punk or metallic hardcore or something like that. Definitely worth checking out. And then there's like Möll, if you know those guys.
What is it?
Möll.
Oh yeah. And that's another one where I've definitely been pronouncing it totally fucking wrong this whole time. But yeah, they're sick. I liked their album that came out a year or two ago. That
Yeah,
was definitely one of my favorites. Yeah.
it's so good. They're like we played a lot of shows with them. Like our first Danish like tour we actually did with them, which is also like, it's kind of funny because it's like it doesn't like, our music is like quite different, but we're just like great mates, and it made sense for us to play together.
Yeah. But I like shows like that, and also I've been noticing more and more that like those are the bills now, where it's not just like a bunch of bands that all sound the same. They're like purposely putting bands together that sound nothing like each other.
It's also made
Yeah.
for like, at least like once you get like a bit jaded and like by listening to this kind of music for like years and years and years, it becomes a long night if you just have to listen to breakdowns and breakdowns and breakdowns for
Yeah.
like 5 hours.
Yeah. That's how I feel. And I feel like that's sort of the average metal listener now is very different from the average metal listener like when I was growing up, because I think it used to be like, no, I only listen to like this style and everything outside of that
Yeah,
style is not cool. Whereas now I feel like people are a lot more open-minded, and it's like, no, I want to hear like all the things. Like I want that
so
diversity.
I think we actually have streaming and stuff like that to thank for that, because like now, like before kind of like had to commit to a genre, like because you had to buy albums within, like if you want to listen to hardcore punk, you needed to actually buy hardcore punk albums.
Yeah.
And now you can just like, if you want to try out like a certain genre or something, you can just like find some music and listen to it like with like the click of a button.
Yeah. No, it's cool. And I think that's the value of concert bills like that now too, where it's like you can draw in a wide variety of different people and then also expose them to like new and different stuff and have them walk away with hopefully, picking up,
Yeah.
merch and stuff from the other bands.
I feel like that's kind of what happened with Ingested. Like who were like headlining on the tour we were on, like obviously like they played like this slamming brutal deathcore kind of thing, and we play another spectrum of deathcore, so like still makes sense, but it's still like a long way from us to their sound, and people were like like into us anyways, which was like really really cool.
Yeah. But it's wild out there. Like, you even have, like, SoundCloud rappers and stuff touring with metal bands now. It's...
Ghost Main,
yeah.
like Code Orange, he had like out on tour as well.
Yep.
I would love to see that. Like,
it's wild. I think it's cool. Like, I know some people get, like, pissed about that and get shitty and are kind of like, oh, yeah, no, don't put a rapper on the tour. But it's like, dude...
why not?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I remember a time where I wasn't a metalhead, and it took something like that for me to get exposed to it, and that's what got me into the music. So some of those rap fans may have never heard any metal before, and that's their first time, and that's the thing that gets them, like, buying albums. Like, that's a good thing.
I don't see why people get bitchy about it. They can just like not attend the show if it's that big of a problem.
Yeah.
But, like,
yeah, just don't go.
Complain, just like don't buy tickets. It's like,
yeah. People just love to complain about shit, though. Like, I think that's the thing. Like,
I do so as well, but I feel like the things I complain about is a bit more well thought through.
But I
don't know.
Yeah.
That's like obviously not.
It's all subjective, I suppose.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But yeah, it is funny to me, though. It's like, okay, if you don't like something, like, you don't have to involve yourself with that thing then. Like, just don't. Just stay away from it. Like, I feel like that's how it used to be. Now it's like, no, if I don't like this thing, then it should not exist.
I think that's kind of like social media's kind of like fault.
Yeah.
Now giving your opinion that shit is like so easy. You can just like type in a few lines, like being a prick, and everybody can see it. And it's like, it's relatively like without any like what's it called repercussions.
Yeah.
But like if you like walk past somebody having a conversation and you didn't butt in and telling like what they were talking about is shit, people are gonna like get really mad at you. So like you're not gonna do that. But on Facebook and that shit, that's apparently all right.
Yeah. It's just, yeah, you have a completely different mentality there, and it's so goofy to me.
There's no consequences doing it. So
yeah. Well, going back to the album and the touring too, were there any particular songs that were like the big crowd pleasers or your favorites to play?
There's like in Tongues we have like this breakdown. Like,
that's my favorite, man. That song is so fucking hard.
Like playing that part in particular is like we were the opening act, so sometimes it would be kind of like people really didn't like know us well. And like a lot of people hadn't heard us before, but like every time that one kicked in, we played us like the same song. People were like, "Oh yeah, I know now." And, like, I get it now.
Yeah.
And there was like "False Light," which was like the lead single from the last record. And that was just like, yeah, it's one of my favorite songs to play. People kind of like get that from the get go. So like it's kind of like have this infectious rhythm. So you just like see people bobbing their heads and jumping around like every time that hits. Like those two for me were like, at least in this tour, like the highlights.
Yeah, I'm hoping to catch, once this all settles down, I would love to catch you all live at some point, because I'm sure it's like super intense. I think particular hearing Tongues live, the Hangman song is another favorite of mine from the new album. I like the one too with I really like the new Polaris album, so I thought it was cool that you got what's his name? Is it Jamie? Yeah, Jamie.
Yeah.
That was a cool feature as well. Yeah. He's got an interesting voice. Like, it's like the second coming of Under Oath is the way I was putting it. Like, he has a very similar vocal quality to them.
It's just like wilder, like more aggressive. And he just adding like the way he kind of like, because he has a very different way of doing vocals than I do.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like really, really played well against each other. Yeah, like he had so much to that track. So that like final breakdown, it's like awesome that he wanted to jump on the track.
Yeah, and you had a couple features because you also had Kim from, how do you pronounce it? Mul.
Yeah.
Mul. All right, I'm close enough. I did take German in college. I feel like that helps a little bit with some of these pronunciations, but it's
like these letters aren't in the German alphabet either. Those, so Germans can't say them either. It's like pure purely Danish things having these like 3 or 4 extra letters,
Yeah.
which is stupid. Like I don't get what we're like 5 people. Like
You got to be
nope.
fancy, I guess. I guess that sound, if I'm to equate it to German, it's kind of like if you put the umlaut over
Exactly.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes kind of like the same sound.
Yeah. And then you also had Matt Heafy from Trivium, right?
Yeah.
So that's cool. How did that come about?
Apparently, like he's a fan. Like when we put out
Awesome.
Marco Ron, we saw him posting about it sometime, like a couple of times. And then we played this thing called Copenhagen, which is like a really, really big metal festival in Denmark. And Trivium were playing there as well. And while they were doing like their sound check, he was playing like the riff from Fall Slide. We were like, holy shit, he actually listens to it.
That's so cool.
And then he approaches in the VIP area and is like, hey, aren't you the Cabal guys? And we're like, oh fuck. It's like superstar. Aren't you Matt fucking Heafy? And it's like we ended up hanging out with him, like and then we just asked him if he wanted to jump on a song, and he did. Like
That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's gotta
like,
be it's gotta be so
like,
surreal when stuff like that happens. But it's cool too because it like reminds you that, oh yeah, these are just like people. Like they just like music.
Just, like, a really, really fucking nice dude who's super into gaming and heavy music. So just like he told us, she was just like, it's weird having like this guy. I used to listen to Trivium a lot when I was like in my early teens playing World of Warcraft when Ascension just came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like really having this guy like that I listened so much to like that long, like when I was like in my formative years, just like being stoked about like being allowed to be on something I made with my friends is like it's just kind of like surreal.
I've had moments like that too, and it's like, is this like real life? Like I don't
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about this. That's really cool though. And do you have any like bucket list guest appearances that like if you could have anyone on your album, who would that be?
I have a few. These are just like everybody in the band has like different opinions on this one, but like one of mine is like speaking of the whole rapper thing is like Ghostman. I would fucking love to. I think like he would be able to do something on one of our tracks that would be so fucking cool. Like, but I don't know. Like I think like a lot of those rappers like they'll charge you like I don't know $10,000 or $20,000 or something like that. So yeah, probably not happening. And then like I would really love to have Nergal from Behemoth doing like a feature. Also because I don't think he actually does that. Like I don't think.
Yeah, come to think of it, I don't think I've ever heard him on somebody else's album, but I could be wrong. But he does have a very unique voice, so it's always cool to hear him.
He would also be able, like, what I want is always like having somebody that I feel can add something to the track. Like that's also what we did with like the people we had on this record. It's like on the first one we had CJ from The Artist Murder and Philip from Humanity Last Breath, which it made total sense because they're like doing deathcore, like kind of like similar to what we do. But like on this one we had like people they still like everybody's like from metal bands, but they still do like way different stylings of metal than we do. It's just like fun to adding them on a track and seeing what they kind of like brought out in the whole thing, like what that could add. And I feel like it's kind of like what I want to do from now on, just like adding these things kind of like out from the left field and like seeing like what that does to a track.
Yeah, and I'm a real sucker for like dual vocalist stuff, especially if the band like already has two vocalists. But yeah, anytime you've got it sounds like two people like screaming at each other too, and they're like really playing off each other, and they have different vocal qualities. I remember on the last Abnormality album, there was a guest spot, and I can't remember what band the other vocalist was from, but that one was really cool. Where it was like that, where it's just like it sounded like they were just like going at each other the entire track, and it was just totally sick.
It's also like it allows you to do a lot of cool things having two voices all of a sudden, and like you can make this like insanely massive wall of sound if you have two people like doing the exact same ground at the same time. It's like one can do like high pitch and one can do like lows, and it'll sound like a fucking demon.
Yeah,
it's
you
really
get
cool.
The layering going. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm such a sucker for stuff like that. Like that's the stuff that always stands out for me when I listen to an album.
Did you get the CD or the LP this time?
The CD. I
Okay.
would do LP, but I as you can see, I buy way too much music and I just cannot afford to buy vinyl every time. It just would not happen.
I get that. I feel like CDs are still being sold in the States like way more than they are in in Europe. I don't know if you feel that way. I have any like thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I do feel like physical media is like still pretty viable, and especially vinyl like has made a huge comeback. And cassette trading has actually gotten
Yeah.
pretty strong again too. I haven't heard enough people talk about it in Europe to really know like what that difference looks like, but that could be the case. I'm probably the only person like in my immediate friend group that still buys any sort of
Yeah.
physical media. They're like, "You bought a CD? Why?" I'm like, "I don't
Yeah.
know. I like looking at it and the feel of it. I like the smell of it too. Like when you open up,
Yeah.
like it just brings back memories from, back in the day when that was the only thing you could do." So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
miss those days. Where also because I feel like well, I love streaming. I feel like it's done a lot for us as a band that I
Yeah.
don't think necessarily would have happened if we had to sell CDs. It's kind of like this weird thing where some people fucking hate streaming, but I feel like it allows you to reach a broader audience.
Yeah. You kind of
All of
need
that,
both.
like yeah. But I kind of like sometimes miss the whole thing of like getting a new CD, and I was like, you would listen to that CD for like weeks straight, like you remember
You
getting
wear
like
it
the
out.
first, yeah, you're listening to the first Slipknot album. I was like 9 when I got that. I was like,
That's so funny that you say that because that was the first album that came to mind for me as well. Because I still have that and it is beat to shit. Let me find it because I got to show you just how messed up it is.
I don't have mine anymore. I think it's
Yeah, I've had this since I must have been 16 or something, and the CD itself is I did a scratch fix on it, back when we would do that all the time, but yeah, it was in pretty bad shape. In fact, I think I have another one too where the label part on the top is actually peeling off.
yeah
But yeah,
because
it's
so much.
yeah, good times, man. Yeah, that was the album that got me into metal. Uh
Me too. Like
yeah.
into like started out with Nirvana, like getting into like just like the Nevermind CD was like the first CD I picked. I wanted for myself when I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I got it. And then like it's like a song in it when with him kind of like almost screaming on it. I was like it was really intense. And then a friend of mine got me into Slipknot, and it's like went way into like metal
Yeah.
after that. And now I'm here.
And even though I listen to so much like heavier stuff now, like I still argue that this is one of the most intense albums that I own. I think
it,
there's just
it
something so visceral about it.
yeah, just like the way it started with this like just like weird and menacing and unsettling in the best way possible.
And it's like it's very genuine too. Like it just feels real. Like it
Yeah,
doesn't feel
like
like this polished product. It just feels like a bunch of people that were not in a good place in their life at the time
yeah,
and just put that misery perfectly into a recording, and it's still one of my favorites to listen to this day.
it's just like it like kind of like pioneered a whole like wave of metal.
Yeah,
I
for
feel
better
like
or
I
worse.
know obviously other people like made stuff that sound like them before they did, but just like they were the ones who like succeeded with it,
Yeah,
and they're still fucking huge. Like even
yeah,
though
it's
like they're
crazy.
over, they're still like one of the biggest bands around. Like they didn't fall off. Like not to trash talk anybody, but I feel like Korn fell off hard, and like a few of all those bands, like
Yeah, although I will say the new Korn album was surprisingly pretty good. um
well,
yeah.
I haven't listened to the last 5 albums. I think.
Yeah, I definitely dropped off after Issues. That's my favorite from them. But like their first four albums I love, and then I kind of dropped off. But
Same
yeah,
with
I'd recommend listening to The Nothing. It feels like one of their earlier records, and it's all about like his ex-wife dying or whatever, so it's pretty intense, and it
so
definitely brought out those old feelings.
that's pretty sick. Now he actually has. It's not sick that she died. That's obviously like really really sad. But it's think that it's like returning. Like now he has some real misery in his life, and then he can make genuine
Yeah.
music.
I mean, sadly, that's kind of how it is with metal in most cases. Is like once people are like happy and stable and things are going well, like the music isn't generally as good. It's not always the case, but I feel
No,
like with stuff like that, it usually is.
I can't remember who. Like I read an article like with some musician talking about that, where he actually had a really good point. Like it's hard making angry music when your life is going great. Like something like it's not as genuine. Like if you're not like genuinely like angry at the world, like it's hard to like convey that feeling into a song if you're just like happy and content. Like
Yeah. And to me, like the most intriguing albums in that type of feel where it's like it's all about that misery, it has to be personal too. Like it has to be some sort of like personal strife. Otherwise I lose interest. And that's what bugs me about like I like some stuff that has a political tinge, but it's like when it comes to politics right now, everybody's bitching and moaning about the same things, and so it gets really repetitive and annoying, and I just
we
like lose interest. What was that?
we made one song that's like kind of more political, like approached, like in terms of the lyric, like Death March.
Yeah, which is a great song too. It's definitely catchy.
I'm glad. That's a But that also comes from my genuine frustration over like politics and like that people can't like see what I'm seeing. Like,
Yeah,
it's,
and
oh,
that I picked up on that when I was listening to the lyrics too, and that's what I generally like in a more political song is it still feels personal. Like you're saying, you're just talking about kind of your general frustration, sort of with
yeah,
the whole process, whereas other bands start to sort of preach, and they'll
yeah,
take like this angle of here's what you should think,
yeah,
and that just annoys me, and it runs counter to how I feel metal is all about people not
yeah,
telling you what to think. Like that's sort of the whole point is you just sort of do
yeah,
your
yeah.
own thing despite what other people are saying. And so yeah, I just don't like that stuff. But yeah, I do like stuff like Death March where it's just like
I'm glad.
the whole thing's fucked. So and I can agree with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly. It's also like just venting that frustration. It's just like, yeah, it
Yeah.
is also like in these days, like when we dropped the song, we were like just there was just like especially like in Denmark where everything got like into lockdown and like where things really became serious. So it was kind of like weird dropping a song called Death March where people were actually dying like
Yeah.
everywhere. Oh shit.
Yeah, it's been interesting with some of that kind of foreshadowing stuff too, because I was listening to the new the Black Dahlia Murder album, and you know the whole album
I haven't
art
got
and the title. What was that?
I haven't heard that one yet. Is it good?
Oh, it's really solid. It's not out yet,
Oh,
but I'm gonna have a
that's
whole like tier list review that I'm gonna put out on that in like a week or two.
oh,
But yeah, it's good. I don't want to spoil too much of that. But in any case, what struck me about it was that, you know, it's called Verminous and the cover art's all like, you know, ooze like seeping through the city streets and everything. And it's like all about like sickness. And I'm like, well, that's interesting.
like the same thing with did you listen to the new cattle decapitation record?
Yeah. Yeah.
The song called "Bring Back the Plague." I was like, oh, that's
Oh my
like I
God.
don't
I
know
didn't
what's
even think
coming.
about that.
Like, oh, it happened. Like, oh,
I think they just dropped a music video for that track too.
yeah, where they actually use like stuff. I haven't seen it yet, but I saw something with toilet paper. I was like, yeah, I need to check that out. But I know where they're kind of going.
Yeah, they're definitely ahead of the curve when it comes to some of that stuff. That was a good album too. I liked the one before that a little bit more, but Cattle Decapitation's just sick.
Yeah,
Another
I'm
band
like,
with weird vocals.
yeah, and he's such a huge inspiration just because he doesn't like what's it called like he doesn't really conform to anything.
Yeah,
Like he just does like crazy stuff, and he's like really good at it. And he's like you can feel that that guy is not afraid to like experiment at all. He's just like he'll add this weird nasal singing that's just like it's fucking
yeah.
awesome. Like
And whenever I run into people who like Cattle Decapitation, I never waste the opportunity to recommend. If you've ever heard of Sludge,
no, how do you spell that? I'm just gonna write
so
it down.
it's like slug, SLUG, but then
Yeah.
DGE. So it's like a combination of sludge and slug. So it's Sludge, SLUGDGE. And they're a
Okay.
UK band. and all of their songs are about worshiping slugs and mollusks. And Alan from the Black Dahlia murder is actually their drummer now.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and I did a long interview with the dude too. Like the guy who, like, it's kind of two guys that are sort of in charge of the band, but the guy who does most of the talking and interviews, Matt, super interesting guy. I did like a 2.5 hour interview with him that's up that I always tell people to check out because he's just so intriguing. But he also does like kind of some interesting stuff with his vocals that reminds me a little bit of things like Cattle Decapitation and Anal Nathrak.
Oh yeah, another
Yeah,
fucking great
yeah.
band. Like,
So if you like that kind of stuff and also weird off the wall lyrics to go along with it, I definitely recommend checking out Sludge. They have all their stuff up on Bandcamp and Spotify and everything.
it sounds like something I would get a kick out of.
Yeah, let me know what you think, because they're out there, and poor Matt actually, I think he had COVID. Um, they I saw him talking because he's on my Facebook, and he was definitely sick. But yeah, I think he had it, or at least pneumonia or something. But I think he's getting better now, thankfully, because we need more music like that in our lives.
I think like the whole tour we were on had fucking the COVID thing without realizing it was that.
Yeah.
We all super sick during the tour, and everybody like wouldn't really recover. I was like sick for 14 days, and I kept
Oh
feeling
no.
like I thought it was just because I was drinking beers every day. But like looking back, when I read up on the symptoms, I was like, oh, dry coughing, like aching joints from fever, and like
It's
all
possible.
I was like, oh,
Yeah,
that
because
might
people. Yeah.
be like it was already like in the stage, like what we were there. It's just like people weren't that aware of it yet.
Yeah. And we also have all sorts of like flus and other bugs going around too. So it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, people have all varying levels of symptoms with it. So it's quite possible that that was a thing. But
Like reading all
thankfully,
the symptoms, I was just like, oh, okay.
yeah, yeah, it's like, it's the craziest thing. But I don't even like want to talk about it too much because honestly, one thing that's been bothering me too is like, we're all stuck at home, and so any podcast I listen to, any like media I watch, I want it to like get my mind off of that, and I feel like all these people now are just constantly talking about it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
can we
But it's
not?
also
Like that's all I hear about.
when you blame him, it's like it's kind of like hard not to like talk
Yeah,
about it because like everything's changed because of that thing.
yeah.
You should just like watch movies. That's
Yeah, that's what we've
what I.
been doing a lot of. We watched that Tiger King documentary, which
Oh, it's
is,
so fucking good.
oh my god, it's so
It's
batshit insane.
wild. How is that a real person? What's going
I
on? Like,
know. That was entertaining, and then I got another free trial to Shudder, that like horror
oh, it's the
movie.
horror. Yeah,
Yeah, so we've been watching, like, we watched all the long documentaries on like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. There was
yeah.
another one too, like, and they just added all of the Friday the 13th movies too, so I think we're gonna rewatch all those.
No, like, some of them was like I bought the box set. I used to collect DVDs. Like, I'm a like really huge horror fan. I had like 1,000 DVDs with different horror movies, and I had the box set, and it's like I remember them as being super scary watching them as a kid, and then I bought the box set. It's like some of them are still really good, but like most of that series is actually kind of crap.
Yeah,
Like, it's
it's
like
they're still entertaining, but yeah, they're just
yeah,
like not.
it's like can't be good fun. It's like I remember them as being scary, and they were like rewatching, like how was I ever scared of
Yeah,
this? Like,
to me, stuff that scares me now is the more like tense stuff. We did get to see the Invisible Man right before
yeah,
quarantine kind of cracked down, and that was really good. Like that had me on the edge of my seat because it's like super tense the entire
exactly.
time.
Stuff like have you seen Hereditary?
Yeah,
That was like one of my favorite new movies like in the last 10 years. It was like so intense.
yeah. It's a rough
Like
watch too, and it's just like it's like miserable too because the ending is also just like it's just pure negativity. Like there's no light at the end of the tunnel.
and like also like craftsmanship wise, like the movie was so well constructed. Like like you get fed like so like I actually like I got so obsessed with it. I went to like see the movies twice. And it's like this symbol that the cult uses is like everywhere,
Yeah,
right from the go, and the cult members are all there, and you just don't know it because you're not looking for it.
yeah,
I was sure for a little while that it was actually like that the twist was going to be that like the mom was actually crazy and she'd been doing all of this and like all the stuff we've been seeing was like in her head. So it's like I was expecting that, and then there was no twist. It was like,
yeah.
and so I was like,
It was cool because it kind of kept you guessing, and you really weren't sure until the very end, and nothing could really prepare you for some of the stuff that was happening.
but then you watch it like the second time, and you realize that you were being told all the time what was going to
Yeah,
happen. There were clues everywhere. You just like didn't fucking see them.
I love
And then
movies like that where it's like rewatchable.
yeah, it's amazing. It's like two different like experiences watching it was like yeah,
I
that
do that a
really
lot. I do that a lot with David Lynch movies because there's like so
yeah,
many layers to them. We just
dude,
rewatched Lost Highway the other night. That's a
yeah.
crazy one.
I can't even remember that one. Remember like Mulholland Drive being
That's my
really
favorite.
uh
It makes sense to me that you're so into horror movies too, because like I feel like that comes across in the music. I even in my review, I don't know if you've seen Doctor Sleep.
I haven't watched it yet, but I love The Shining, and I've heard it's
Yeah.
actually really good. It's like a worthy follow-up, so I need to check it out.
Yeah, it was really good. And, you know, in the movie and in the book, there are these characters called the True Knot, and they basically go around and they like find people who have like the Shining or some sort of like
Yeah,
gift, and they like torture them and like suck their like energy out. They call
that's
it their
pretty wild.
steam. And in my review, I said that listening to, I think it was a particular track too. No, it was just the whole album. I was like, it's like listening. It's like you're having your essence like sucked out by these like
Yes, it's a great
demonic
analogy.
people. Yeah. What's your
But also
favorite
like
horror movie?
it's always like I don't know if you've seen this meme going around. Every time somebody asks you what's your favorite something, it's like I know no movies. I always get that feeling instantly. I feel like one of my favorites is really hard because like I've been watching horror movies since I was a kid, so I've seen so many. But I feel, there's like this. I think it's South Korean. It's called I Saw the Devil. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's yeah. It's like for me, it was just like it's just like really like caught me. That was like not just like black and white movie where it's like you have like bad guy bad and good guy good. It's like having like this weird like seeing like the hero of the movie actually like doing like really vicious shit and like putting other people in danger because of his like some quest for vengeance. It's like just operating this is like really cool gray area that made it feel really real in some way, which I thought was like really cool and like there's just like something different about like this movie, like the way the characters were portrayed. They were like way deeper than your average like horror movie characters.
Yeah. I
That
dig stuff
really
like
like
that too, where there's more kind of depth to what's going on and it's not just this black and white kind of concept. That was something I appreciated too about The Invisible Man. Like that really defied my expectations. It was really solid. I
yeah
think another more recent one too was Get Out. Uh,
yeah it's really good.
Another good movie to rewatch too, because there's a lot of weird like warning signs they like plant throughout the whole first half of the
Exactly.
movie that you might not notice right away.
How did you feel about us like Jordan Peele's second movie?
I had really mixed opinions going out of that. I thought visually it was really engaging. I enjoyed watching it, but I also constantly found myself snapping out of it and being like, "Wait, that doesn't make sense." Like there was a lot it was like they tried to explain it too much and in doing so it sort of undermined the entire plot in the end to the point where it
Yeah,
really just didn't make sense.
yeah. I also thought like the plot twist was kind of weak. I kind of like I
I saw
thought
that coming too.
yeah I saw it coming, but I was like okay, it's Jordan Peele. He just made Get Out. Like it's obviously not gonna be that. And then it was. I was like,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah, it was a little too like almost from the beginning. I was like, "Oh, they switched because we didn't see what
yeah,
happened. So clearly something happened there." Like
Yeah.
And it became more and more clear that that's what was going to happen. So that didn't surprise me. But what bothered me even more, though, was because it was, I would have liked it more if it was more of this vague, like, supernatural thing. And there wasn't
Yeah.
really a clear reason as to why it was happening. But because
It's
it was like, oh, there was like this research team underground, and it's like, wait, so you're telling me that all these people got like all these jumpsuits and all these pairs of scissors and like organized, like this does not make sense. Like I just can't buy it.
also sometimes it's scarier without the exposition. You're like
Yeah.
having no idea what's going on. Like, have you seen The Strangers?
Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah,
movie,
because
because
you
you
were
like
home.
don't.
I love that line.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you don't get any backstory about who these people are, why they were doing. Like, it's just like because you were home, as you said, like, which is like it makes it all the more scarier. Like, my opinion, that like also because I feel like that's what happens sometimes in real life is like just people being at the wrong time at the wrong place,
Yeah.
like, and that like absence of reason is sometimes really fucking scary. Like,
Yeah. That's why, like, my favorite horror movie has always been The Shining. And I feel like it's because there's more of just this element of sort of you're not sure, and there's a lot of questions at the end of it, and it keeps you thinking. And also, it's more about like what you don't see than what they actually show you.
yeah,
And to me, like that's all. I hate movies where they like show you the monster too much, unless it's like a slasher creature feature kind of special effects driven movie.
yeah, where it's
Um,
just a popcorn movie in some way,
right.
like.
Like, you know, like a Friday the 13th or something like that, where you're oohing and eyeing over the special effects and stuff. Like, that's cool. But when it's supposed to be
Yeah, and you
actually
actually
like
like,
scary, like I don't
yes,
want to see it because I want it to be like just that thing out of the corner of your eye where you're like, did I just see that? Which Hereditary did a pretty good job with too, where
and
like
there's
she'd be,
Alien as well.
yeah, oh man, I love
There's like
those.
these scenes where you actually fucking see the alien, but because you don't know what to look for at first, you don't see it. Which is
Yeah,
already, there's like this scene where it's hanging in these chains. The first time I saw it, it just like didn't register because I didn't know what to look for, and then you see it again and you know it's there. You
yeah,
see it like moving around like a lot of scenes, which is super fucking creepy.
I eat that stuff up. That's the best.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we've been doing with our time while all this is happening. In addition to stuff like this and the usual stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this, and you've given me a whole bunch of extra time too. Any closing thoughts before I wrap up?
Uh, no, not really. Like, thanks for the chat, and I hope you guys stay safe.
Yeah, yeah. Stay healthy and stay in touch too. Like if you ever want to come back and do this again, or if you ever find
Oh, no.
yourself in Portland too, let me know and look me up, and we'll have to get a beer or something when this is all over.
Yeah, no. I hope we really want to come back to the States while we had to get our work visas done, like to go there in the first place, which was super fucking expensive. And so we hope to like to come back sometime later this year to like get full of like our money's worth of touring for that visa.
Yeah.
So the plan is that we're coming back, but like obviously now everything's a bit up in the air.
Yeah. Well, we'll just have to see.
Yeah,
But
fingers crossed.
yeah.
Ooh, man.
Cool. All right. Later. And that'll do it for this episode of Trench Talk. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, you can listen on Spotify, iTunes, Castbox, BitChute, and YouTube. Regardless of which platform, please also subscribe on YouTube because there's plenty of other videos and content there for you to enjoy. And also stick around, plenty of other episodes of this. You can find links to our social media down in the description, our email newsletter, and also our Patreon and Subscribe Star. Just $1 a month would make a huge difference to helping to support the channel. But I think that'll do it for this episode. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.